The illicit tobacco trade remains prevalent in Malaysia, now accounting for 60% of the overall tobacco market. In part 1 of our interview, we talked to Oxford Economics Director of Economic Impact Consulting for Europe and Middle East, Pete Collings, and British American Tobacco Malaysia's Managing Director, Eric Stoll, on the economics and crippling effects of the illegal tobacco trade. Gentlemen, first of all, how do we classify cigarettes as illegal?
Specifically, really, in Malaysia, there are 3 different types of illegal cigarettes. You have what are called illicit whites, so they are produced legally elsewhere, purchased legally elsewhere, and then smuggled into the country. Then you have illicit kretek, so clove cigarettes, again smuggled into the country. And then finally you have packs that look legitimate but carry fake tax stamp. Essentially within Malaysia, the breakdown of the illicit market, so overall it's about 60% of all consumption is illicit, and of that about 75%, so 3/4 of that amount, are illicit white, and then another sort of 19% are kretek smuggled in, and then the remainder are those packs carrying fake tax stamps.
The statistics show that the illegal trade in Malaysia is not showing signs of a slowdown. Now, how did we get this bad?
Going back to 2013, illegal share was still around sort of 30%, and it was hovering around that level. You had excise duty was increasing, but increasing relatively slowly. I say relatively because in the end of 2015, there's a 40% increase in the duty that's paid on a pack of cigarettes. Now, why does that? What is driving that? So when we look at the illicit trade, you really have 2 drivers. You have, on the demand side, it's all to do with affordability. So are consumers, are they being priced out of the legal market? And what we see is that with those excise increases, you see that a legitimate packet of cigarettes is accounting for sort of 7% of a household's daily income at an average across Malaysia. When you compare that to illicit cigarettes and the prices that they're being sold for, you see that the affordability, they're 1/4 of the price in terms of the amount of income that they're taking up. So obviously there's a significant incentive then for consumers to engage in the illicit market. The other side is that there has to be a supply of illicit products. And so what we can see in Malaysia, when you look at comparison to the other countries in the region, there's cigarettes, apart from Singapore, cigarettes are far more expensive than sort of Indonesia, Philippines, Vietnam, where prices are anywhere between 1/4 or 1/5 of the prices that are currently in Malaysia.
So Eric, the illegal trade, right, it's something that BAT as an industry player has been struggling with, and we have seen what it has done with the closure of your plant. People have lost jobs. Is this just the tip of the iceberg?
In the economic impact study, it's very clear, it's not only us, it's also our competitor JTI, that a combined impact of 6,000 jobs almost. It is absolutely has a devastating impact on an industry per se, which is also why we're driving such an active agenda, because if you look at it, and many things have been said in the last 3 years, and intents have been spoken of what needs to happen, but if you make up the balance over the last 2 to 3 years, illicit has not come down, and in spite of obviously an intent, in spite of very clear legislation that has come in place, so far things have not worked. And that goes beyond the tobacco industry. The impact is significant on society. It's not employment alone, it's corruption that fuels the machine and fuels further corruption. So I think it's a much bigger problem than just the tobacco industry alone.
Where exactly is Malaysia getting its illegal cigarettes from?
I think of the top 10 illegal brands, I think it's sort of 8 or 9 are coming from Vietnam, Indonesia, Philippines.
So in 2018, 5 states in Malaysia were found to have the highest market share for illegal cigarettes, right? Why these 5 states? What does this tell us?
On the one side, you have the affordability, so you're looking at income levels. Illicit cigarettes are far more attractive there. Are the income levels lower? And then also it's accessibility. Is it easier to get the cigarettes into those states?
So gentlemen, at 60%, how do we fare against other countries?
Not well, I'm afraid. So Euromonitor collect data and assessed the illicit market in sort of the 100 largest tobacco markets across the world. And at 59 to 60%, Malaysia is number one, really, in terms of the illicit incidents. You have other countries. Brazil is approaching 50%, around 50%. Then when you look around sort of the region, so Thailand, Philippines, Indonesia, Vietnam, they're all lower than 20%, and in some cases lower than 10% as well. So it's noticeable how high it is here.
You know, the illegal trade has been feeding the black market and corruption in Malaysia. I mean, we're talking about 5.1 billion in taxes evaded in this country, right? So from what you've seen in other countries, how bad can the impact be from illegal trade?
So overall consumption has increased, the legitimate market has shrunk. And obviously that has led to BAT and JTI closing their factories as a result of that. It's not just the jobs in the factories that are then impacted, it's the jobs in the wider supply chains that are affected, and all the jobs that are associated with any wage spending that is associated with the factories as well. If you have an economy where there are high levels of corruption, where legitimate markets are under threat by illegal activity, then investors or potential investors will be thinking, well, do we want to invest? We've seen BAT and JTI, who were investing in the company, scale back their investments. So there's quite a strong signal there that this may be a harder business environment than we'd like to operate in, for example. So you potentially discourage investment as well.